Hey, my name's Annika. I'm the director here at Star Camp, and today we're going to talk about spacesuits. A spacesuit is the garment or the clothing that an astronaut needs to wear if they are going to be outside their spacecraft while outside the atmosphere of the Earth. There are a lot of dangers out there in the vacuum of space, and the spacesuit acts to protect the astronaut from all of them. It needs to be durable enough to protect them from micrometeoroids, the space junk and dirt that's flying around at thousands of miles an hour. It needs to be able to keep the astronaut cool when they are in the heat and warm when they are in the extreme cold. It protects them from radiation from the sun, and it provides oxygen because once you leave the atmosphere, there is no air to breathe. And it also has to be pressurized so that when you leave the pressure of Earth, in the vacuum of space, there's nothing pushing on your body. You want your body to be able to regulate. So the spacesuit helps with all of those things. The astronaut also needs to be able to move, use their hands and legs and arms while being protected from those things. So it's a really tricky balance for the engineers to figure out a way to protect the astronaut, keep them safe, while also allowing them to move. NASA has used basically the same spacesuit design since the 1960s when astronauts started landing on the moon. Going forward, returning to the moon and heading to Mars, engineers are trying now to figure out a sleeker design for the astronauts. Some problems that they've encountered in the past is that after walking on the moon, they get covered in a lot of moon dust. But because of the lower gravity, that moon dust doesn't settle once they go back into the spacecraft. It just kind of lingers in the air, and astronauts end up with dust on everything. So one of the cool designs for the new spacesuits that engineers are looking at is a spacesuit that would stay outside the capsule, and the astronauts would then step into the suit as they step out of the capsule. How cool would that be? What kind of spacesuit would you design if you were the one in charge? Today, you get to try that a little bit. We need to protect Astronaut Bob. He's about to fly on a space adventure. He's going to be outside his spacecraft, doing a moonwalk, doing a spacewalk. He needs to be safe from flying micrometeoroids. Once he's dressed, we're going to drop the micrometeoroid on him, see if he can survive. The materials you are going to have, instead of using Kevlar, nylon, polyester, all the things that they put in the many layers of the spacesuit, you're going to use what you find around your house. Today, I've collected paper towels, plastic baggie, some styrofoam cups, tape, and a rubber band. We'll see if I use that one. Now, we also have size constraints. The spacesuits and the astronauts need to be able to fit through the small openings and the small kind of confined spaces of their space capsule. For us, our restriction is that the spacesuit cannot be more than 6 inches in any direction. So I don't have too much space to work with. Let's see if I can make it happen. First, I'm going to cut my cups a little smaller because putting them on here going to be too big. Remember that you need to protect your astronaut on all sides. You don't just give them oxygen to one lung. Your astronaut needs oxygen in both lungs. You don't just pressurize where their head will be. You need to pressurize where their legs will be too. In another video, you learned about another layer of the spacesuit, the thermal coolant garment, where they pump water all throughout the suit to cool the astronaut down. I'm not going to bother putting that coolant garment on my astronaut today, but I am going to make him nice and cozy in a paper towel. This is what you might consider the soft layer in the spacesuit to protect the astronaut from chafing, from rubbing on the other parts. Now, I don't want to pack this too thick because I know that the scissors could go through paper I want to be able to provide some other protection. I'm going to squeeze out all the air, though if I left the air, that would be like the pressurized balloon part of the spacesuit. But I'm ignoring that one too. So now I've got paper towels and the plastic. And I'm going to check my size. We're still basically the thickness of the apple, so I've got about 2.5 inches to work with. Now I have all of it secured in place. Just check my constraints, make sure my astronaut is going to fit through all the different parts of the spacecraft. We're within 6 inches. Ooh, that one's barely 6 inches from every side. Now for this next part, you may need some adult supervision because we are going to be dropping a very heavy, sharp object. You can do this with heavy scissors, a heavy kitchen knife, a butter knife is nice and heavy, or a very large nail. What we want is weight and a point to try and stab our astronaut. So you'll want to find a place where you can raise this about 5 feet in the air. For me, that's the height of myself. You'll want to make sure that you're in a space where your scissors or your knife can't bounce into anything. You'll want to use some heavy scissors or a butter knife, anything with a little bit of weight and a point. Again, make sure you have a parent's permission and their supervision before you do this. You'll especially want to make sure that your own body is out of the way in case of a bounce. Now, line it up so that when you drop it, you're going to be hitting Astronaut Bob and his suit. We're going to intentionally send a micrometeoroid at it. I'm about 5'4", dropping from about 5 feet. I missed the apple and broke the suit. The good news is the person, the human, the Bob, is intact. Try it a couple of times. See if you can get a more direct hit and still survive. If your astronaut didn't survive, what could you do differently to improve your spacesuit? Send us some photos of your experiments. We'd love to see them.